Hey friend, and welcome to the 2026 Week 1 Pantry Challenge. I am so excited that you are here to join us for this Pantry Challenge. If you missed the video where I went through the rules and everything that we are starting with in the freezer, I will link it so you can make sure to jump back to that. But without further ado, let's get started on Week 1 of the Pantry Challenge. All right, we're gonna get started on dinner. Tonight we're gonna do a take on cottage pie. We have leftover roast from Christmas that was in the freezer, so we're gonna have that along with some leftover mashed potatoes. Then we had some sweet peas, some corn from the garden, and then I cut up a carrot and a shallot. So let's serve this dinner together. It's gonna be super quick and easy. What I love about cottage or shepherd's pie is you can use pretty much any vegetable you have in your refrigerator. So here I am just frying up some carrots and 2 shallots just in some oil and salt. And then after a little bit, I add in some frozen corn along with some sweet peas that we have. And then I finally add in our meat. You can make this as meat heavy or as vegetable heavy as you prefer. Beauty of cooking at home is it's all up to your preferences. And then I just added in about half a can of tomatoes plus all of the juice, just because it was looking a little bit dry and I wanted to make sure that it was nice and moist. Then finally, I am going to add it into the pan. We're just gonna spray it to hopefully keep it from sticking too bad. And then just make a solid layer of everything. We will spread that out, and then we'll just dollop the mashed potatoes that we have left over from Christmas on top. I would have loved if we had a little bit more mashed potatoes, but this was the pantry challenge, cleaning out what we have in the freezer in the pantry. So that is what we used. Then I went ahead and topped it with some cheese. It would be really good with chives on top as well. Into the oven that went for about 30-ish minutes just to kind of get the cheese to melt, get everything heated through. It was absolutely delicious. All right, this is real life pantry challenge, and we have a kiddo down with RSV, so we need something quick and easy for dinner tonight. So we have the world's largest pizza in the freezer that was left over from a while ago. So we're just gonna heat this up and have this for our dinner. And then we have some other leftover pizza from a gathering. So we will heat this up if we need more, but these slices are huge, so this should probably be enough. So that's all we're having for dinner today. I had leftovers for lunch and the egg bake leftovers for breakfast. Hey friend, and welcome back. It is another night, another dinner. Tonight we are making some maple Dijon chicken and a salad to go with. My sous chef is here and is going to be helping. So I first just preheated my oven to 425 degrees, and then I am going to get 2 packs of chicken thighs laid out, and we are just gonna do a quick little marinade that we're just gonna let this cook in. I'm just laying my chicken out so I can see what pieces need fat trimmed off of. If you don't mind the fatty pieces, you can just leave them on. They're just not our favorite. So I'm just gonna trim them up a little bit. All right, I'm just gonna add my chicken into the bowl. And to this, we are going to add a half a cup of maple syrup. My sous chef has hit the floor with my measuring spoons, so we're just gonna have to eyeball some of our measurements. We need a 1/4 cup of Dijon. We're gonna add in 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar-ish, 2 teaspoons of soy sauce, a little bit of pepper, and some salt. Then we're just going to give this a nice mix. And ideally you should make your marinade first before adding the chicken, but with one hand we do the best we can. You agree? And then I'm just gonna let this sit for just a couple of minutes while I clean up. And then all we are gonna do is just lay this chicken out on our baking sheet. The beautiful thing about making everything at home is if you don't like chicken thighs, you can use breasts or drumsticks or whatever you prefer. And into the oven this goes. Next, we are gonna get going on sweet potato for our salad. All I'm gonna do is just dice this up and roast it. This is the world's largest sweet potato, but luckily my son likes this, so it'll make great leftovers. This half I diced, this half I'm gonna cut into strips because that my son is able to eat it best. And then to these, I'm gonna add pepper, some salt, just a little bit for him, olive oil, home freeze-dried onion powder. I'm just reusing this container. Just a little bit on his. Some garlic powder. And that will do it. Mix his up. And then ours, and this is going into a 375-degree oven until they are nice and soft. All right, for the salad portion of our dinner, this is gonna be very simple. We are just going to do a 1 cut up apple, some mixed greens. These are left over from the holidays, so it is time for them to get going. And then we are going to add to our greens a good amount of pomegranate. And I know you can definitely peel your own, but we have these left over. Some leftover praline pecans. I was hoping to have more, but a little mouse, aka my husband, got into them, so that is all we have left, but that'll be good. You can't tell, the theme of this dinner is to clean everything out. We're gonna add feta. And then the dressing, this is left over. It is just olive oil, salt, pepper, garlic powder, and a cranberry pear white balsamic. But I am out of that balsamic, I believe. But I do have this raspberry white balsamic, so I'm just gonna add that to it. And I think that will taste great. Start with that, we can always add more. Pepper. Garlic. Decent amount of salt. And then I'm just going to dress the salad. There's our salad component. I will put the dressing on the table in case anyone wants more. Our timer for our chicken just went off. And it is way done. Best part about chicken thighs is you can overcook them and they won't get dry. And if you're wondering where my sous chef ran off to, he thought sitting and watching the robot vacuum was more fun, so he is currently sitting on the floor watching the robot vacuum clean the living room.
Are you sharing with Dad? Oh, you're not? You're just showing me? Wow, because I gave it to you.
Hey friends, it is Wednesday and I wanted to show you real quick what I traditionally do for lunch. Now for breakfast, I had a yogurt and it is currently 12:30 and I am so hungry. So I am going to do leftovers from dinner. Now last night we did a salad, and when we have leftover salad that's already dressed, I try to eat all of the lettuce out of the salad and leave the goodies. So in here there's chicken, feta, pomegranate, sweet potatoes, and pecans. that have all been dressed. And so I pull out all the lettuce and eat that at dinner. That way it doesn't get soggy. So I am gonna have this cold for lunch. And then because that's not enough, I also had some leftover just chicken and sweet potatoes. So I am going to heat this up and have that as well. This does not have the dressing, so I think I will drizzle this with some balsamic glaze, and that is going to be my lunch. I focus on leftovers every single day for lunch because I work full time. I don't have time to just make lunch, so I like to make too much dinner, and I will have that for lunch every single day. Now for dinner tonight, we're gonna do steaks with cowboy butter and caramelized onions. So I have onions thawing from the freezer, and then I have also laid out some moose loins. These are just defrosting, and I will get them in the marinade in a couple of hours. That way we can get them marinating and they will be ready for dinner. So I will take you along when we jump into dinner, but that is a look into what I'm having for lunch today. Okay, it is time to get going on dinner. I am just gonna do a little bit of prep work now. That way when my family gets home, it will be nice and quick to pull dinner together. So my husband had one request, and that is cowboy butter. And I make this a little bit different every single time, but it always has fresh herbs in it. So I have fresh parsley and fresh cilantro. So I'm just cutting those up, probably about half a tablespoon of each, and we want these to be very finely chopped. That looks pretty good, so we're gonna get that into our bowl. I'm just gonna eyeball all of this. We are also gonna do a half a tablespoon of Dijon, a half a tablespoon of freeze-dried chives. If you have fresh, that's better, but just using what I have. A little splash of lemon juice goes a long way, so don't get crazy. Some garlic powder, or fresh garlic, whatever you have. A little bit of paprika. Obviously, our butter. This has just been sitting out at room temperature. Okay, that is our cowboy butter. And then I'm just gonna use the same cutting board and get my steaks going. Now, I had laid out some steaks, and then halfway through I panicked that it wasn't enough, so I laid out more. So some of these steaks are frozen, some of them are not, which is exactly why I'm going to start marinating them a little bit early for dinner. That way they have time to defrost in the marinade. Here are my not frozen steaks, and these are loins, so that's why they're so small. And I like to keep my steak marinades very simple because the meat is so good. So we're just gonna do some Worcestershire sauce, soy sauce, this Hush best seasoning yet, perfect blend. It is salt, garlic, onion, paprika, beer powder, pepper, mustard, and beet sugar. That is it. I'm just gonna give this a mix and let this sit for about an hour until we are ready to grill them up. My family is on their way home. I just got our potatoes in the oven, and now I wanna get going on getting our onions caramelized. For these, I'm just going to add in some butter. And my onions are in, and the key with a good caramelized onion is a good amount of salt because that is going to help draw out the moisture. Welcome to our late night breakfast burrito making session. So we had a lot of steak and caramelized onions left over. So I went ahead and just put some tater tots that we had in the freezer in the oven, cooked those up, chopped up our steaks that were left over from dinner along with our leftover caramelized onions. Then we scrambled up a few eggs. Our chickens are laying a crazy amount of eggs right now. We put Christmas lights in their coop about a month ago, and we've been getting about 5 to 6 eggs a day, and we only have 10 laying hens. So that has made a world of difference. Then I go ahead and just add in some cheese, and our secret ingredient is 505 green chili. Now I do have a ton of green chilies in our freezer from the garden. However, I like to use 505 for our breakfast burritos because you use so much of it. I would go through pretty much all of my garden green chilies. So I prefer to save those for an application where you really get to taste it instead of it just being more of a sauce that kind of falls into the background. So I am just going to portion them out onto a tortilla. Now, I would love to be a great tortilla maker, but I just am not. They always turn out not great. So if you have a good tortilla recipe you want to share for me to try, please share those down below. Otherwise, I recently have found these, I think it's like Don Julio tortillas at Walmart, and I think they are really, really yummy. They hold together well. They have a great chew and texture, so we've just kind of been working with those ever since. Then we put it in parchment paper, wrap them in foil, and then we will pop them in the oven on the days that we want them. The parchment paper keeps them from sticking to the foil, so if you freeze these and then bake them from frozen, I highly recommend making that additional step. It will make for a much better final product. Hey friend, it's a little bit early, but I'm gonna get going on dinner because I have a busy afternoon and I wanna come home and just have dinner ready. So I'm kind of making this up tonight, but we are gonna do a sausage tortellini soup situation. Instead of using tomatoes in the soup, I'm going to use some of this garden tomato soup that we have. So I have this thawing on the counter. First thing we're gonna do is fry up some sausage and some onions and carrots, so let's get that going. It is nice and chilly out today. It's only about 30 degrees is the high, so I'm wanting a nice, warm, cozy soup, and hopefully one that makes some leftovers because we don't really have any leftovers in the house anymore, and I need lunches, so I'm hoping this makes a nice amount of leftovers. I was just laughing. This is the largest carrot I have ever seen. I got these at Sam's Club because we are out of garden carrots, and my goodness. I'm just gonna get this peeled. And now, usually when I am frying up sausage or something, I will do more than I need, especially for like something like this. However, I just laid out one because I was planning on making a few breakfast burritos we're going waterfowl hunting this weekend, and I wanted to have some breakfast burritos for early mornings, but we ended up having so much steak left over last night that I decided to just put those in the breakfast burritos, and then I had this sausage already defrosted, so it was nice and easy to just transfer recipes and put the sausage in the soup, and we will have the steak in those burritos that you saw us make last night after dinner. And that's just a really great way to reuse the same ingredients but in a different form so you don't get tired of it. Some garlic. All right, I'm gonna throw this into the crock pot. Into that, I'm gonna add in this bag of tomato soup. You could do a can of diced tomatoes as well. And then to that, I'm gonna add about 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Give that a nice stir. That smells so good. I'm just gonna keep this on low until I get home, and then once I get home, we will add in some kale, some cream, and our tortellini. All right, friends, we are home, and I'm gonna get dinner finished up. I'm gonna add in about a cup of half and half. into this, stir that around, and then I'm also going to add in some kale. I'm gonna let that cook for just a minute, and then I'm gonna go ahead and take some out. My son is allergic to egg, and the tortellini that I am adding in does have egg in it. So I wanna make sure we're getting his serving pulled out before I contaminate the whole thing with egg. We're just gonna add a good amount in. This will cook down pretty significantly. Bah. No, thank you. I'm just gonna bump this up to high to get that cooked in a little bit. All right, friends, I went ahead and pulled some out for my son, and now I'm gonna add in the tortellini. We don't need this whole bag, it's a big bag. Start with that. All right, then I'm just gonna pop the lid back on this, keep it on high until our tortellinis are cooked through. All right, friend, and just like that, we are done with week 1 of the 2026 Pantry Challenge. I hope you liked today's video and got some inspiration on new things that you are able to cook. If you liked today's video, please consider subscribing so you don't miss any of our other Pantry Challenge videos, along with a lot of our gardening and freezer meal videos that we'll have coming up here very soon. I appreciate you being here, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, friend.